Okay, looks like we're just now going live. Give us a few seconds. We're going to dial in the audio for you guys. Shouldn't take too long to do this. Let's see if we can get this sorted out. Oh, look, here we are right here. Oh, cool. All right. Got it. All right. All right, well, how's the audio? Are we doing pretty good? Is it super quiet? Sounds pretty clean to you? Hey guys, we're just now starting a quick live stream. Hopefully we won't stand here tonight. Kind of a Sunday night jam since we haven't done this in a fair bit of time. I thought we would take a few minutes and I'd show you guys some of the products that are some of the ideas or maybe some of my opinions on how to choose products to actually make. Here's the question. When should we make the products versus fundamentally either number one, outsourcing them or just not messing with them at all? That's the question, right? Looks like we got some guys that are starting to show up here. Let me take a look. If you guys could do me a favor, please just, audio's good. Oh, great. Hey, Joe, thanks, man. Appreciate it. If you guys could just take a few seconds, the audio's good for you, do me a favor, just throw a quick comment in the comment box. Just let me know that things are going good. And we'll rock and roll. All right, so let me just tell you, let me give you guys a quick backstory. Like a decade ago, in fact, more than a decade ago, back in 2011, I had an RC car and I had bought some wheels for this RC car that were like, I don't know, like 80 bucks. And I wanted to put those wheels and tires onto another RC car that they just wouldn't fit on. One of the cars had a 12 millimeter hex and the other one had like a 15 or 16 millimeter hex, something way different. And a buddy of mine made me some custom hexes. Kurt, if you're watching this, dude, I never knew what you went through to make me a couple of pieces of aluminum that allowed me to put some, you made me probably hundreds and hundreds of dollars worth of these little adapters just so that I could put $70 or $80 worth of tires on a different car. So man, I'll be forever in your debt, and I've saved these all these years just because I appreciate what you did for me. And so the question is, people ask me all the time, they have these ideas for these products, and it happens more often than you think. People want to make things and they either overestimate like the demand for the product, or they underestimate the true cost of bringing the product to market, and it's really challenging. So I guess it's like this. Hey Harandu. Here's the thing. You guys know that over the years, I've talked about this a lot. We make molds. I make molds that make products. And so I can CNC machine, let's just say one set of parts to make the mold, right? And then that mold can go on to make 100 parts, 1,000 parts, 10,000 parts, 100,000 parts. I've never made 100,000 parts of the mold, just in case you're wondering. but you guys get the idea. And so I've got some things that are kind of near and dear to my heart here across the table, because I want to show you guys some of these. Some of the stuff I've made, well, actually the only thing I've made here is this. The rest of the stuff I just think they're good examples of opportunities, and they're probably better opportunities for, well, we'll get into it. Here's the thing. The first thing I'm going to show you guys is something that you can go buy dirt cheap. This is just an inexpensive hatchet that I bought as kind of like a makeshift survival kit, just in case there's a zombie apocalypse. I've got myself a little hatchet here. But you would be stunned at the number of people that are willing to invest in CNC machined, crafted tools just like this one. Not inexpensive imported tools. I'm talking beautifully crafted, CNC machined, hardened, ground polished, many times even engraved, or if it's Damascus steel, etched tools just like this. And I think that a tool like this, you're clearly not targeting the same market with a $30 Amazon hatchet as you are with a beautifully handcrafted, custom CNC machined, piece of art that you can use. It's kind of like the Timex Rolex thing, right? The appeal isn't necessarily just in the item's ability to do work, but in the backstory, in the art, in the craftsmanship that comes along with it. And so I think that if you can access markets like these, there's a tremendous amount of opportunity. And if you guys get some time, there's a website I'd like to share with you. I've never bought stone cold art, all right? I grew up quite modestly, very, very modest, to be honest with you. And I never dreamed of actually using money to buy something that you would just like look at. That just, when you grow up, when you grow up and you don't have much, you can't imagine spending money on something to just look at. But I'll admit to you guys that about a year or two ago, I saw something online by a machinist named Chris Bathgate. And if you guys don't know who Chris Bathgate is, you should know who he is. And you should head over to his site when we're done with this live video, and you should check out chrisbathgate.com. Chris makes some of the most beautiful CNC machined art I've ever seen. And it just has this incredibly mechanical kind of, I don't know, it looks like something like you'd see like in a, I don't know, maybe a Star Wars movie set or something. A piece of art came up. I had an opportunity to buy it. I didn't buy it. I actually messaged Chris a few months ago because I had just regretted not buying it. Now this isn't, I don't think it was anything super expensive, maybe $1,200-ish. And it was already part of someone else's collection. But the point is, there are people out there that appreciate what the things that guys like Chris do, and they will pay a premium to have access to that. And I feel like when you think about guys like John Grimsmo that make, I actually had a chance to handle one of John's knives here a few months ago, and I have to tell you, it was absolute jewelry in my hands. I can see the legend that John Grimsmo has built behind his line of knives and pens, the Saga pen and the Norseman and the Rask and stuff. It's this, not only is the story legend, but when you actually get the product in your hand, it lives up to, it is what you thought it should be. You know what I mean? The packaging is, the way it opens, the way it closes, just the way it feels in your hand. And so what's unique is that there are companies overseas that are literally selling stone cold copies of his product, but for far, far cheaper, but people still continue to pay, the full noodle on his products because they want that genuine, handcrafted, high-end piece of equipment. So I think that's one end, okay? So beautiful art, crafted, relatively low volume. I don't know if John would see it that way, but I want to go to another end. And this is a part for an RC car. And I know that there isn't a ton of light here, but these are called C and D blocks. And what these do is they basically just go right here. They go with the front and the rear of the rear arms on a variety of different cars. And over the years, we've considered making these. But there's a few hurdles. There's a few things that have kept me from making these. These aren't particularly sophisticated. The geometry is not sophisticated. The tool paths aren't sophisticated. Really not too much about them is super sophisticated. But here's the challenge. You have to be able to sell one of these that has to be beautiful. It has to be anodized. It has to have a great surface finish. The plastic insert that fits inside this little, they call it a pill, that controls the hinge pin, has to fit beautifully. If this were to fall out, a customer would just absolutely not be happy with it. So it's a tight tolerance. And how many of these do you think you'd sell? 100? A couple of hundred? Maybe. Would you sell 10,000? Doubt it. I mean, I don't think there's 10,000 vehicles for this to go on. And so the question is, how does this get made? Generally speaking, this gets made in places like Taiwan or in job shops, maybe in China, where this is a beautiful part. It's an absolutely beautiful part, but the level of effort and kind of investment, not just in finance, not just financially, because you could go buy a bar of aluminum. You could make this part relatively quickly, but making it super effectively in volume is a little tricky. Now, I will tell you this: if you took this exact same part that I'm telling you that I wouldn't make or couldn't make super cost competitively, more or less, there are one-off applications where we could definitely do this. Okay. But if you took this exact part right here and you made it out of titanium, now you have yourself a part that is worth building fixturing for. Because you're not going to cut these one at a time in a vise and make money. You're gonna cut rows and rows and rows of these. And if you're fortunate, you could use something like a Pearson pallet system, and you could run a whole row down one side for side one and then flip them all over. So every time you hit go on that machine, your little machine does 15 side ones and 15 side twos, and you have parts coming off, so they're cost effective. The material cost in something like this is negligible. It's really the machining and the anodizing, the machining, and just overall labor. Just taking this thing in and out. That spindle time and labor, a little bit of anodizing, and that's that. But the titanium would make it it would take it from being like let's just say a $20 part to say being a $50 part, and that gap, that differential between the value in aluminum and the value in titanium would make something like this very unique, because the margin would just be so significant. I'm actually stunned that more companies don't make these. These generally only, when the car is like kind of jumping and it kind of bottoms out, the bottoms of these will scrape. But for the most part, these don't really wear out. And probably if you made one out of titanium, it'd probably never wear out. This is an example of something that I couldn't really find anybody that would do this for a price that I thought was reasonable. And even when I looked overseas, this is a vacuum forming mold for a small RC car. In fact, against my better judgment, I'll grab it. Hold on. This is actually the original mold to make the body that's on this car right here. And again, what makes this so unique, this took a fair bit of time, and to be honest with you guys, I did this on a 5-axis machine, but I knew that all the effort that I was putting into it allows it to make lots and lots of parts over time, and aluminum is infinitely more durable than any type of epoxy resin ever could be. Okay, let's see here. Jay Vaughn's asking, what do I do? Jay, I run a small manufacturing business for the hobby industry. Squints Pellidoris. Hey. Let's see here. So Justin Stanley saying, hey, you've owned multiple Haas machines and have had the Okuma for a year. If you were starting over and had the financial capacity, barely, would you stretch to get the Okuma or start with the Haas? Justin, that's a fantastic question. Let me cover these last couple parts, and I promise you I'll answer it. And if I don't, just bring it up in the comments one more time, and I'll do that. I didn't mention this in the beginning, but just so you guys are all aware, I have a business relationship with Solid Machine Tools. They've helped support me and help make this content, and I appreciate it. I will never ever. I'm just not a salesman. I'm not here to convince you guys to buy anything or to do anything. But I will tell you, I've had a great experience with my X7. I'm looking forward to the X5 that we're getting in June. I've owned a ton of machine tools, and I think that machine tools, by and large, are a lot like cars. You either get a good one or you don't, okay? This has been my experience. But I just wanted to let you guys know that this content is brought to you by Solid Machine Tool down in Houston, Texas. The boys have been good to me. I had a good experience with my machine. Okay, so anyways, you see there's all kinds of aluminum stuff on these cars, and I think the rules that I'm getting at here are if you have something that's relatively high value, that didn't sound right. If you have something that's relatively high value and low volume, I think there's real opportunity, especially when there's some element of just status to it. think there's real opportunity for anybody to make stuff in their garage. I mean, look at Eric Luther's knives. Eric used to make his stuff on a Haas Super Mini Mill, and his knives were beautiful. You know what I mean? These machines, again, they're just tools. They're just like hammers. They're just computer controlled hammers, you know? So there's all kinds of opportunity, all kinds of parts on these. The challenge with a lot of these items that people come to me and ask me, hey, I want to make this or I want to make that. It's like, hey, you can go to like Xometry, or you can go to find a vendor in Taiwan that has 50 Mazaks, and they have guys that are so skilled and machines that are so accurate that they could make it faster and cheaper than you ever could dream of doing it. And so it just doesn't always make sense. It's not uncommon for people to come in, they'll come to the door, or I'll get an email, hey, I've got this idea, and I want to try this, or I want to try that. And kind of like the guys that have it. I don't look down on the inventor types. I actually really respect these guys because they're swinging for the fences. And if you don't swing, you can't hit a home run, all right? So don't be afraid to swing. But they come in and they'll ask me about mocking up a part, like something like this. Like this is a DK stem for a BMX bicycle that I got in 1993. So I'm dating myself. I know this, but it's the truth. I got this stem in 1993 for a Robinson SST, bright red one as a matter of fact. And I see tons of really cool BMX parts, mountain bike parts, whether it's like seat components, chain tensioners, all kinds of pedals, all kinds of cool stuff. But they're higher value. They're not really lower value items. Of course, many of you know what this is. This is something I've had for years. I've just been sitting in the closet. This is from my buddy Sam over at Venom Defense. Sam makes these, and this could actually be made on just about any type of CNC machine. Of course, I would never condone you guys doing anything illegal in your country, so follow all the rules, all the laws. You guys know the spiel, right? I don't make this kind of stuff. I make hobby products, but clearly there is a market for not only for the manufacture of defense items, but there's a huge market for people that want that stuff modified. They want to fit specific sites, or they want it vented, or maybe they just want some type of artistic decoration put on it with a laser. Sometimes the CNC machine, they want stuff engraved on there, and there is quite a bit of opportunity for that. The title of this live video is kind of like, don't make this, make that. And I think the lesson here, what I'm trying to share with you guys is that just be careful. Before you decide to make anything, whatever it is, I would investigate all the methods of manufacture to make sure that your method is going to be competitive for you. Because I can tell you right now, I've invested the last 6 or 7 years into manufacturing a variety of different pieces of tooling. And sometimes I'm in the machine shop and I'm just like, I couldn't be happier. Our speed to market can't be touched. But other times when I realize that our competitors are using vendors that are, maybe somewhere else, and they have their tooling vendors have 50 CNC machines and 50 machinists, there's no chance for us to compete on a volume-based level. And so you really have to evaluate what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are for your product, for yourself, and I guess for your business. All right, let me get back here to answering this question because I promised I would. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so Justin, let's see here. Okay, so Justin just said, you've owned multiple Haas machines and you've had the Okuma for a year. If you're starting over and you had the financial capacity barely, would you stretch to get the Okuma or start with the Haas? Justin, that's a fantastic question, and I'm going to tell you, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, and I'll tell you why. Mechanically wise, there is no comparing the two, okay? You can't compare the rigidity. You can't compare the accuracy. You can't compare the spindle. But you also can't compare the control. You can't compare the complexity. And the Okuma is fast, rigid, accurate, thermal comp, incredibly powerful control. But Haas is easy to use. You basically can learn everything you ever wanted to know from their YouTube channel. but the quality of the machine is, in my experience, a little bit hit and miss. Now, if you said, hey, I'm looking to make parts that are plus or minus a couple of thousandths, then it really doesn't make a big difference. If you're looking to have a machine that's going to be, accurate to within a tenth or two or a couple of tenths, and you need it to last for 30 years, then probably the Okuma. I think the warranty says a lot about a brand, and on an Okuma, I think you get 5 years on the control and the electronics, 3 years in parts, and a year on service or something like that. And I want to say that a Haas gives you like a year warranty, then the next year is like $6,000, $7,000, $8,000, or maybe $9,000 for the 5-axis stuff. So take that for what it's worth. I don't think there's a great answer. I think that's incredibly application dependent. So I hope I answered your question. Squint says the fixture cost is way more than one batch parts, but worth it for large quantity. I will tell you guys right now that a big part of any of the products that you've seen here, outside of these like mold components, I guess, let me get rid of some of this stuff. Any of these types of things, you win or lose on this stuff in your fixturing. That's all there is to it. In our little X7, I can put the Pearson pallet system in there. I use it for a variety. I use it for some of our mold cavities. I have a whole bunch of pallets for it. I have like the Saunders Machine Works, just the regular fixture plate one, so I can use like the Saunders modular vise in there. Love that thing. I don't use it a whole hell of a lot, but I do like it. But having a method to hold your parts effectively, it's I don't want to say it's live or die. That's probably a bit extreme, but it is absolutely the difference between squeezing by and actually having some real margin in what you're doing. It's the difference between struggling to pay the operator to run the machine and being able to pay the operator well and to make money while the machine runs, okay? So fixturing is a big, big deal. There's no question that, I'm trying to think how to say this. People have come to me in the past because the people that they were at before couldn't sort out the fixturing. So if you can sort out the fixturing, I promise you that's a major benefit in business. Okay. Paul Bird. Paul, hey Paul, I'm glad to hear that. Paul says my Okuma M560 was barely more than expensive than a similarly equipped VF4. Yeah, I agree. I hear that all the time. Just so you guys know, I think it's important to try and compare things equally. Many of you guys know that the probing systems can be different from machine to machine. Some people love the probe. Some people don't use the probe at all. I have a Heimer that I use on all of our machines. In fact, I only use it on the X7. On the VM2, I use the probe most of the time. On the Okuma, I use the probe most of the time. But what I do is I keep a pull stud like hand tight in a Heimer. That way, if I'm in a jam or in a rush or there's a dead probe battery, which happens on occasion, I do have a method for setting the work offset. Let's see here. So Daniel says, how do I think the artsy guys like Grimsmo will hold up during a recession? Daniel, I know you're not going to want to hear this, but I used to know a guy named Dan Kennedy. Dan's passed away now. And Dan seemed to believe that as time was going to go on, the gap between like the wealthy and the poor would increase. The divide would become bigger. And he really believed that he was a big fan of marketing to the affluent community because they had so much disposable income. And so I know you probably don't, I don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if those guys did just fine. Not only that, on those high-end products like John creates, I don't know how much margin's in there. I don't know what his processes and his back end looks like. I don't know what the books look like on these businesses. But my guess is that when you're looking at a $1,500 knife that's got, I don't know, $100 in like raw steel, I'm shooting from the hip here. I have no idea what John actually has in materials in there. A big part of that is labor and machining and prep and legend and marketing and kind of like brand appeal. That knife doesn't cut anything that my crappy Gerber from, Bass Pro Shops doesn't cut. It's just a better knife. Okay, let's see here. Spares and engineering parts for large-scale manufacturers such as food processors and other similar industries, another type of market if you could find a way into. Yeah, I think there's a tremendous amount of opportunity in many, many sectors. Don't get me wrong. I think what I've tried to do on this channel, and I think you guys know this, I've tried to gear a lot of the content towards guys that are starting out and they're trying to make that jump. They're either A, making the jump into CNC machining from like maybe a little CNC router, or maybe it's just their first CNC machine. And then the jump, like, hey man, I've been tinkering in my garage, I've been making parts, I've been doing this. How do I get a commercial building and try to make this like a career or start generating more revenue? That's kind of my thing. I'm never going to be a Peter Stanton. I'm never going to be the absolute tactician that Stefan Gotteswinter is. I'm not like a old hardcore Bridgeport knowing like scuba gear making Joe Pye. I love every guy that I just mentioned. I'm a huge fan of. I mean, I kind of stay in my lane. I think I'm pretty good. At least I think I'm pretty good at the things that we do, at the things that we make. I've automated a lot of it to kind of take some of the uncertainty out of it. But I'm by no means an absolute expert. I don't claim to be some super duper CNC expert because that's just not what I am. I'm kind of I'm a technician at heart, a tinkerer that I guess I kind of fell into manufacturing in my mid to late 30s, and I'm a huge fan of it. You can trade your time for money. That's called a job. You can run a service-based business where you have extra employees and, like more pest control guys, more plumbers, more whatever. Or you can run a manufacturing business. And manufacturing, it's kind of capital intensive. There's some big hurdles that have to be cleared. But I feel like I like the fact that the value you create as a manufacturer, when you make something, it can transfer. People actually get to use it. It affects their life, and then they can trade it, or it can kind of move from person to person over time. And I like that. I like that whole idea. I don't like the idea of contingent value. Yeah. Anyways, so that's a rant for another day. Let's see here. Okay. Looks like there's a few more. Hi, any tips on how to market your products or service? I mean, honestly, you guys, I've always said that there are really 4 fundamental components to an offer. Here's who we are, here's what we have, here's what it'll do for you, and here's how to get it. Now, I don't think you want to do that in 4 specific stone cold straight sentences, but here's who we are can be literally an opening shot of your shop, your products, the people that use your products. You get the idea, right? And here's how to get it fundamentally is a call to action. But those are the 4 fundamental components. Those are the building blocks of an offer. And if you apply those building blocks to anything, to YouTube videos, to shorts, to Instagram content, I'm not on TikTok, but if you want to do TikTok, social media has given you watching right now, you can reach literally billions of people right now with your product. Whatever it is you make, billions. If you don't believe me, jump on Facebook, jump on Instagram, jump on YouTube, and you can create ads for your products right now that drive traffic to your website or your autoresponder, your opportunity to build a list, and you can create a huge customer list. You can start selling products. Like, yeah, it's mind numbing, and that's the stuff that you pay for. If you're fortunate enough to be able to go viral, I mean, oh man, the sky's the limit. Think about this: 30 years ago, you had to place newspaper ads, you had to mail postcards. Like, there was none of this like instantaneous communication that we benefit from today. I say benefit loosely because I'm not always sure it's a benefit. Do I have wear offsets on? Yeah, I do have wear offsets on my OSP. Yep. Yeah, I use wear offsets. Are you considering getting the Sile X9 or X11? Currently have a Tormach 1100 MX. We want to go bigger, more industrial. We did. We were discussing an X11. We don't have room for it. We just do not have the space for it. The only way we could get an X11. So I talked to the guys at Sile. We're going to put an X5 right next to our X7. The only way we could do an X11 would be to get rid of the X7, and I really don't want to do that. Like, that machine is like turned out to be, for lack of better terminology, that's like the Swiss Army knife at work. The VM2 has a fixture and the 5-axis TRT 210 rotary that live in it. The Okuma has fixturing that lives in that. And so to do any projects on either one of those machines generally requires a little bit of finagling or maybe a little bit of teardown. In the X7, we have that little Tagara 660U vise. and we have those dovetail jaws by it's MMM USA, and then we have the 4th axis. And so, yeah, I feel like more often than not, like we're over there in that X7, like tapping holes, counter boring, yeah, just pocketing. So I don't really want to get rid of it. And yeah, and you can move it with a pallet jack. So if we got in the X11, I don't think we'd be moving that with a pallet jack. Let's see here. Austin, I hope that answered your question. Regarding the high end versus low end during a recession, people who buy low end and hobby stuff will just stop. During a recession, you want to be super high end. Those guys always come out on top. Okay, fair enough. BDP Racing, how do you manage to stick to RC parts? I started out with dirt bike parts, but have been flooded with work making parts for electronics. BDP, the short answer is, well, I don't think there's a short answer. We try to focus, we have a variety of different products that we make. How do I say this? We OEM products. How's that? That's that. Okay, that's my answer. Okay. All right, guys, we've been on here for like 31 minutes. I just wanted to make a quick video for you guys. I haven't done this in a while, and I have some pretty cool content going. I started working on this little mold in the X7. It's a little mold. We have a small kind of like hobby-ish injection molding machine that we bought for some of these smaller projects, kind of like keychain size objects. I think you guys are going to get a kick out of it. And yeah, so we're making that. So you're going to see a bunch of footage of that. Hopefully, I think that video is uploaded and scheduled to release like maybe in 2 or 3 weeks. I'm not exactly sure, but relatively soon. And so you're going to see us in the X7 machining all that. I chose P20 tool steel because it's highly polishable. It fits together good. It just that's what we make all of our other mold cavities out of. So I thought we should make it out of that. And then I'll show you guys once that's all done. I'll show you the assembly. It's going to be longer than you want. The first video is just the machining of side 1, but then we'll do side 2. We'll get it together. We'll put it in the machine and we'll make some parts. So, all right. Let me see if there's anything else before I cut you guys loose. All right. That's that, guys. Thanks so much for watching. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. If you guys have any questions or comments, or if you're watching this at a later date and we didn't get to interact here or catch up, please share your comments down below, and I'll do my best to bring it up in another scheduled video, or maybe we'll do more of these live videos. Now that things are starting to settle down for me, I'm hoping I set this up so that I can make more content for you guys without having to like jump through the hoops and set the lights up and set the mic up and all that kind of stuff. So thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.